What is up, gamers? Welcome back to Game Brigade. My name is Brian. Thank you for joining me today. Today, we are going to be doing another episode or segment of the skip or back segment of my channel, where we talk about campaigns that most interested me this week and kind of give you my thoughts on whether or not I'm considering backing them or whatever you might want to consider. So we'll be diving into that. I'm sorry I haven't done one of these segments in such a long time. You know, it's hard sometimes. Sometimes I forget about them, whatever. Also, we have our giveaway going on for the 10,000 subscriber giveaway. We're giving away Avalon the Riven Veil to one of you, my lucky subscribers. To enter my giveaway, you must, one, be subscribed to my channel. So remember, you hit that subscribe button. Also, smash the notification button. But two, you must comment on one of my videos that mentions this giveaway. The question of the day, the hashtag QOTD, we'll have a question later on in this episode that I'll be asking to you guys. And you must answer my question, and then I'll give you an entry to our giveaway. So looking forward to that. Also, before we begin the episode, this is my third time filming this specific episode. I kept running into issues where the audio wasn't working. I finally figured out what it is. We'll show you a little bit. See this right here? This is my cable. This was disconnected. So you can see how long that probably took me troubleshooting, trying to figure out what the heck's going on with my computer. Little connection doobob down there was unconnected. So we are all fixed. Hopefully this one works. So let's go ahead and cut to the beginning of the episode. The first thing I want to talk about, this is actually not launched yet. This will be launching in 2 days. This is for Star Trek Ascendancy: The Final Frontier. I am super hyped for this game. This is a game that I was going to back or buy secondhand, like literally 2 or 3 or 4 weeks ago, like something like that. And then I saw that they were doing a reprint campaign. So I was like, hold up. I'm going to check out this reprint campaign when it happens. So that'll probably be coming in a future episode. Be looking forward to that. But before we begin then, actually, now that we're going to begin, let's get to the actual episode. The first game we'll be taking a look at is Earth Under Siege Flashpoint. So I have actually played Earth Under Siege. It's a game I just did a video for. I'd recommend checking it out. I was very impressed with this game overall. Earth Under Siege is a game where you are going to be playing cooperatively. This is a cooperative dungeon crawling like experience. We're going to be moving through different types of facilities, going on stealth incursions inside this alien and controlled base where we try to assassinate or complete some sort of objective, rescue some hostages, whatever it may be. There's a bunch of different types of missions, and you're going to be doing that with a card-based driven system. So let me see if they actually have how to play. Doesn't look like it, but effectively you have these deck of cards that are assigned to the hero you're playing. So every hero has a little bit of asymmetry to them, and their cards are unique to the type of abilities that they're going to do. And you're going to be playing these cards to activate different types of actions and abilities and whatnot. So I enjoyed this game. Very, very enjoyable. This is the reprint campaign, which I always think, if a game is successful enough that it gets to a reprint campaign, those are usually positives. But this also includes the Nemesis box, which is an additional new content and whatnot. So let's see here. What is new? What is the Nemesis box? Okay, so the Nemesis box, the expansion that this is going to be providing, is going to be doing a new boss battler-like change to the enemies that are in the game. So when you fought, say, a big bad guy, you'd have your normal enemies that you deal with, whatever. But the big bad guys would have sometimes an ability that would trigger, and as well as just a meat shield. They would just have a bunch of extra health. That was kind of like the thing that they did to make themselves more difficult. Now they're going to be changing that around, making it a little bit more unique, giving a little bit more identity to each of the types of enemies that you're going to face. I think that's cool. It adds a lot more replayability and value to the game, so that's cool. If you're taking a look at the pledge, you got $500 effectively for this Annihilation pledge. That's a lot of money. Personally, I have the Frontline pledge. This is a great pledge. It gives you a ton of content for the campaign style gameplay. It's also one-shot compatible. That was the one thing I mentioned also in my video. If you're looking for basically all the new stuff that's still reasonable, I think the Aegis pledge is where I'd probably be looking and whatnot. But you could also just do the Frontline pledge and then just add in the Nemesis pledge, which is totally reasonable as well in terms of your options. So those are what I'd recommend. In terms of what I didn't like, there was one thing I didn't like, and if you click on what's in the core box, you can probably see it right here. If we scroll on down, it was the token bloat. This game had a ton of tokens. It was very hard to organize and sort, and making sure that you had everything you needed for that specific mission on the table without a bunch of just random stuff. Too many tokens. I get it. They're trying to make sure that you have conditions and responses and markers for any potential thing that could happen, but it was a lot of upkeep and whatnot. But overall, the gameplay was very good. I highly recommend this one. The next game we're going to be taking a look at is Massive Darkness here. This is Massive Darkness Dungeons of Shadow. Massive Darkness 2, I went all in on in their last campaign. Very, very much enjoyed how that game played. I eventually moved on from Massive Darkness because of, one, the scaling of when you added more players to the game, in my opinion, was not a very good way to scale. They basically just add more mobs to an enemy cluster, and then made it so you potentially get one-shotted by these mobs. I didn't like that. But two, it's hard. There's so many types of these dungeon crawling like games that it's hard to keep one in your collection long term. But overall, Massive Darkness was a game that I very much enjoyed. What was the number one thing I liked about it? It was the asymmetrical classes that are available in the game. Every class that you're playing has a completely unique type of identity and ability, and then playing it kind of gives you that kind of mini game style gameplay from it. So let me show you here, for example. Here are some of the new classes that are coming in the game. So you have the Assassin, and as I said, every character has their own gameplay-like experience. The Assassin will be using the darkness with this darkness die to, play whatever they're going to be doing, while the Chronomancer is going to have this board that you're going to be manipulating. That kind of shows like the gameplay styles between these two characters are completely different. You have the Herbalist has this whole different type of board as well. This was the one factor about the game that I thought was so cool. When I played it, I was playing the Paladin. My friend were playing, they're all playing different characters. Very, very much liked the feeling of having all these different types of experiences. I do wish when I played the Massive Darkness 2 that the progression system was a little bit better in terms of leveling up, and then maybe you maintained your level up. I never played the campaign though, so I don't know if the campaign changes that. But I do know that they're adjusting some of the progression systems here, which is cool. In terms of things I didn't like about Massive Darkness, I've already mentioned the progression. Also, the art. I'm not a huge fan of the art. For example, this assassin just looks like a dork with me. I don't know. The art doesn't look great. I don't love this kind of over stylized aesthetic, but some people might. But that's me personally. Overall, if I were to pick one of these rewards, I generally stick to the starting gear level, the 110, which gets you the stretch goals. There's an important thing to note. One thing I actually liked about this campaign, and this is kind of new, and I'm seeing this kind of more recently with a lot of these campaigns. I think Tenaris might be the first one I saw do this, where they're going to take their game and implement it into a 5e Dungeons and Dragons like system, which gives you a lot more replayability with all the different types of all the different stuff that you have for this game. So if you have a whole bunch of boxes of content, well, now you have more ways to use that content and gives you a little bit more life with your stuff. So I think that's pretty cool. But again, if you're going to want the stretch goals and stuff with this, you have to be purchasing the one that gives you the RPG back stuff. So you might have to get the adventure gear specifically. I'm not backing Massive Darkness. This is not one I'm going to be backing. I've already had my time with it, and I do think it's a game that is better when you have all the things. Like, I had Massive Darkness 2. I also bought the backwards compatibility for Massive Darkness. I didn't have Massive Darkness, but I originally thought, oh, well, I will solve all the cards and it gets you all the stuff. I don't know. It didn't feel good. And that was one of the other reasons I sold my copy. I just didn't love that. I really wish I had both Massive Darkness and Massive Darkness 2. But then that becomes a lot of stuff. Like CMON Games, you get so much bloat and stuff going on. It's hard to store all that stuff. So I eventually moved on it from myself personally. The next game we're taking a look here is Aventuria. This is an older card game. I apologize, by the way, for all my stuff being way low down in the campaign, because I filmed this 3 times. All the things are all over the place. But this is an older card-playing adventure system. So it's a card-driven adventure system that kind of revolutionized in terms of how these games do resource management and stuff. When you play games like Magic the Gathering, you have resources that are in the form of lands. You play lands down, and a lot of people dislike that way of generating resources because you can become mana screwed if you don't draw your lands. So a lot of games have figured out how do we combat that. In this game, you have an endurance system, which is you have an endurance cost. You need to play your endurance cost to play your cards. The way they do it is you're going to be drawing 2 cards at the start of your turn, and you get to resource 2 of those cards, which can become part of your endurance to help you. Cards that have similar systems that have copied that kind of system are Star Wars Unlimited and Lorcana, which is kind of cool that this is one of the first games that I know about that kind of introduced that. This also is going to be having a dice system. So when you play and you're doing kind of a system check with whatever you're doing, you're going to be rolling your dice. And alternatively, the way this game works is a 1 is a critical success and 20 is a critical miss. Because actually, I don't know if it's critical miss or critical success, but in terms of, semantics here. But the way this works is, let's say you have a 15 on your hit stat. Well, you're going to be hitting at 15 down. So anything like a 5 hits or 2 hits. So the more upgrades you get in terms of your abilities, the more likely you are to hit on your dice. So that's kind of the idea there. It seems counterintuitive, but I actually think it works pretty well in terms of realistic stuff. And this is also going to be a narrative-based campaign game where you're going to be playing through a story and going through that. My biggest holdup with this one, and I've talked about this with some of my friends, and the reasons I'm probably skipping this one is when I look at this game versus other games that kind of have similar kind of things with like the living card game like feel. I feel like I would rather invest my money into a game that is a living card game, like Arkham Horror, the card game, or Lord of the Rings, the card game. Games that still give me that narrative campaign experience where I'm playing through a story, but maybe have a IP or artistic style that more aligns to what I'm doing, or gameplay system. I do think this Aventuria is kind of revolutionary, but it is a little dated. Now, they have come back, obviously, and worked on things. But for me, I'm skipping this one. Now, in terms of what I think people could see the value in backing something like this is because, when you're buying into those living card games, they can kind of also get a little bloaty. Like, you get a lot of stuff, and sometimes it's just the cost keeps adding on. Like my Marvel Champions, you think, oh, it's only $15 a pack until you get like 50 of them. Then it's expensive, right? It adds up. So something like this gives you that experience of a living card game, but in a kind of a condensed, self-designed system that kind of gives you all the enjoyments and gameplay elements without gonna get overly big and whatnot. So you can get this Chalice of Powers, the base game, the Curse of the Deserts, the new expansion. You can get both of them for 115 euros. Looks pretty cool. Then they have this titanium box. I haven't looked into that one at all, but you can check that out for yourself if this is a campaign that interests you. The next one we're taking a look at here, clicked, is the Fate Forge Chronicles of Khan. It's an 8.4 on BGG. Dice Tower, Seal of Excellence. This is the one that, if I wasn't talking about Earth Under Siege, if I was looking at the high fantasy, and also this whole week to me is like high fantasy adventure role-playing games. I feel like that's really the theme of the week if I were to look at them. Fate Forge is the one that was kind of the most interesting to me. It offers the most diversity and changes to the gameplay elements that I've seen, but also has a very interesting way that they are introducing their mechanics into the game and giving us a way of playing. But Fate Forge has one of the more interesting ways of drip feeding new information into the game, allowing you to kind of experience the game at kind of a tiered progression system. Like it teaches you how to play without force feeding. So what do I mean by that? So when you play the game, when you start the mission off, it's going to have you just know, some of the basic rules, kind of like a quick start, know these rules. And as you play through each of the missions, it's going to start teaching you new mechanics that you're going to need for the next section of the game. As you eventually master the whole system, I think that's a really impressive way to learn a game. I wish more games would have a quick start feature that said, here's what you need to know to play the game. And then as you progress to chapter 2, chapter 3, here are some new mechanics that we want you to explain. I don't think enough games do that, and I like that they're doing this. Now, this does have a app that's going to be integrated into the game, which is going to be playing as the DM. I think that's cool, but it's kind of a risk. There are risks with anything that's an app-driven game. Now, this app will also remember decisions that you made. These decisions will come back later and impact your gameplay style, which I think is cool. But as I was mentioning, anytime you have an app, if the publisher, and I'm not saying that these guys are going to do this, I'm just saying this can happen. If a publisher ever stops supporting their app, they stop updating their app, and you eventually get to new Android or iOS system updates, eventually these apps could no longer be supported by the Play Store or the Apple App Store, and they won't function anymore. That has happened. And for example, I have an iPhone 6, hasn't had a system update in forever, and YouTube, which is what I use that app, that iPhone 4, no longer functions because a new version of YouTube came out, and the old version that is still stuck on my phone will not update. So now that phone is basically a brick. Can't really use it for anything. So that happens, right? It's something to be aware of whenever you're buying a game that has a narrative app companion with it. Now, I do think these apps offer a lot of opportunity for interesting gameplay, being able to remember past actions, being able to reduce the amount of clutter needed, and also reducing the need to having a DM or a overlord like player that can, has to manage the whole game. The app manages for you. I think that's cool, but there are always drawbacks to it. Now, in terms of the gameplay, why does this one kind of more unique and more interesting? Well, this is going to be one that's going to have a dice rolling mechanic with it, but these dice all have different types of abilities that are going to be attached to them, and you're going to be rolling these dice and trying to assign them to different types of abilities, and you have some mitigation to these dice. You're going to be using these chits down here to reroll dice and whatnot. It seems interesting. I like it. I also like the world that they're building here. And as you move around, you kind of explore the undergrowth or whatever of what's happening in this town. This is the one that looked the most interesting to me of all of the dungeon crawling like experiences. The final one I want to talk about is Star Driven Gateway. This is from Rock Manor Games. I've enjoyed every Rock Manor game I've seen, so when they sent me an email saying, hey, we're launching a new campaign, I was curious to see what it would look like. Haven't played it. I've taken a little bit of time watching some videos about it to learn about how it works. Effectively, how this game is played is you are going to be assigning crew members to your ship to different types of stations, and then you're going to be rolling dice and putting those dice into your little holder down here, like this guy right here, and then assigning those dice to those stations that have crew at them to activate and do different types of abilities based on the dice face that you are putting in. I like games like this. Reminds me of any kind of dice dice rolling where you're gonna put it to a thing. I like those type of games. I think they're kind of fun. What I wanted to know on this one is how the multiplayer works. You have a cooperative expansion, which means that it's going to be played completely cooperatively with everyone. You also have a solo mode, which means most games that have solo modes are mostly cooperative. But it is also saying, we have a competitive mode. My question is the competitive mode more of a multiplayer solitaire experience, or how does the interaction work between the players? How are we going to interact and play with these people throughout the game? Okay, so yeah, this one is definitely interesting for me. I think I like what I'm seeing as I'm moving around and the action selections and all those things. I just want to know is, when I'm playing with my friends, how much are we actually interacting with each other, and how do those interactions affect us in positive or negative manners, whatnot. I'm not looking to punish my friends, obviously. I'm not looking for a game that's punishing, but I want to know, do we prevent people from doing things, or is there limited resources? I don't know. I just would like to know a little bit more about that. They do have some playthroughs and previews. I personally feel like I get the best way to understand a game is actually by playing the game, so I don't really watch too many playthroughs myself. But that's my question. So this is one I am still interested in, but that will be wrapping up all of the games we're going to talk about today. So first off, obviously, Earth Under Siege. That is the one I think I have the best understanding of, but I've also played it. I think it's a rock solid game. I would recommend it to anyone that's looking for a stealth-driven adventure kind of dungeon crawling experience. Massive Darkness is great. It's got a lot of stuff going on. I personally skipped on it. I didn't like the way the scaling worked at higher player counts overall, but I did like the way the players got their asymmetrical powers. I think that was really, really cool. Aventuria, a lot of talk about this game. Hear a lot of good things. Personally, for me, I'm probably going to stick with my LCGs that I know and trust. Fate Forge Chronicles Con looks probably the cleanest and coolest and freshest of the lot. Little nervous about anything that's app driven, but that's my personal take. And star driven, I like the system that's implemented, the way the actions are driven, the way the dice are used. I just want to know how does it play with multiplayer? Like, what is that looking like? Are we playing a cooperative game, or are we playing a truly multiplayer game? So my question of the day, the entry for the giveaway, is going to be, what is your take currently on crowdfunding games? Are you still excited about crowdfunding, or are you kind of leery and leaning away from it? I would like to know. And if you are leery and leaning away, what is causing you to do so? Let me know in the comment section down below. And remember, be nice, be kind to everyone in the comment section. I appreciate you guys for being a very, very great community and whatnot. So thank you guys for that. My name is Brian. I will talk to you very soon. Look forward to my vlog coming up. Talk to you soon. Bye-bye. You done with that? Oh, thank you, my love. Thank you. Okay, go have fun playing your games. I'll be there in a bit. You want to say hi? Say hi. All right, you go. I wanted one of these. Okay. Okay. So.